This is Gene Watts. And this is Love in 60 Seconds.
We have been married for over 20 years.
And in that time, we have learned a few things that we'd like to share with you.
So if you're single, newlyweds, or seasoned in marriage, we think you will enjoy the upcoming program.
Absolutely. And we want you to like, engage, share, and do all of those wonderful things that we do on Instagram, Facebook, and every other social media outlets. Send us DMs. We want to hear from you.
This is
Love in 60 Seconds.
60 seconds. Love in 60. Love in 60 seconds.
Hey everybody, good afternoon, good evening. This is Frederick and Gene Watts, and this is Love in 60 Seconds. We're so good to be back with you tonight, guys. It's July 11th, and we are back from our hiatus.
Yes, we are. Good to see all of those that are coming in. We are kind of just giving everybody a minute to sign on. We're not going to be long tonight. We say that all the time, but we're not going to be long tonight. And a lot of times we're not long. So there you go. Hope everybody has been doing well. I'm trying to get into my situation here and share.
Right. We're live on both Facebook and Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, and we're so happy to see you guys. And as always, if you are on Facebook, you're able to interact with us and chat with us. And you can always follow us at Wattsup Entertainment on Facebook and Wattsup Entertainment on Instagram, or you can also watch us live as Wattsup Entertainment on YouTube. So good to see you guys. Good evening to the Bibs and the family, and as always, please like and share. And we've been gone for a while, so we're getting back. So please like and share and comment and engage with us tonight.
Share. I'm going to try to share while we're doing this tonight. I don't got no glasses on, so I don't know who I'm sharing this with.
So tonight's topic is My House is on Fire. And as everybody's coming in and you guys are sharing, and those of you on Instagram, we're going to talk about houses on fire and what does that mean and how does that pertain to relationships. And as always, we talked about, it's very important that when you are in a relationship, there's some basic things that you need to have, some basic tools that'll help you, especially in marriage, to have a successful marriage and have a successful relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly when you are married, with my type of job, let's just go there with my career, with my job choice. I have little fires that I put out every day, like, stuff that happens. And you're like, dang, I gotta deal with that, because a little fire, if it is left unattended, it will become a big fire. So we want to talk about that tonight. We're giving people just a couple of minutes to get on, because we're on a little bit earlier than our normal time, or times that we have had in times past. And I know that a number of people text me today and saying, hey, please let us know when you're on. And we're trying to do that.
All right. So also let us know if that works for you. We're going to come on a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So at 8:30 instead of 9 o'clock. So that's 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 Central, and 5:30 on the West Coast. So let's get into it.
All right,
let's go into it.
So, like I said, with my job, on the day-to-day, I put out little fires. You know what I'm saying? Little stuff that happens that can mess up your stuff, mess up your business, can mess up your deal, mess up mess up things if it's left unattended. For example, we're talking about fires and we're talking about your house being on fire, but basically talking about your relationship being on fire. Fire is destructive. Fire is good, but in this sense that we're talking about today, fire being destructive and fire tearing down and not being useful. So, like, for example, when Jazz was little, I remember one time, and it was in this house, there was a brush, there was a candle that was lit in my bathroom. I like to clean the house and then light a candle. So they were little and normally never touched it, never messed with the candles or anything. In the bathroom, there was a candle lit. There was a brush with hair in it on the counter. And Mr. Jazz,
that's our middle son.
Yes, he got into it and he took the hair and the brush and it set on fire. So it was on fire and had probably been on fire for a little bit, about like a minute, because he ended up burning up. The counter was burnt. There's a circle still to this day that I haven't got fixed that's burnt on the counter from when he burned. But he called me and it was like, Mom, this is on fire. So I'm glad that he called me when he did, because what happened was he called me and I was able to come in and I was skilled enough and it was able to get the fire put out without too much damage.
Right.
It was the hair in the brush was gone. It was a little small spot on the counter that was burned, but I was able to put that fire out because he had sense enough to ask for help. Right. When it was beyond the scope of him, because he burnt the counter trying to put the brush out, tapping it on the counter, trying to put the fire out, but he wasn't able to do it. So, I was able to come in, but if I had not come in or if he had not called me, I had all kinds of hair products also on my counter. Right. And those things would have caught on fire and they could have really been a big fire. It could have really hurt him, could have hurt, us. And, that would have been an accelerant and made it go faster and made it, something that was out of control and beyond my control. Correct. So, that's an example of putting out a small fire before it gets too big. I guess you can comment on that.
And that's the same thing or example that can happen in relationships. A lot of times you'll have accelerants in your relationship that can cause something that is minor to be major. Yeah. And also because, or like I think Charvella put that even happened to her one time. Right. When you have things around that are unattended, or if you have issues in your marriage that you don't address, and then all it takes is a brief spark to ignite that. And because it's unaddressed, and if you leave it that way, it'll grow. Right. And then I do like that story, and I know we're going to get into it. The solution was that Jazz asked for help. Now he was a young kid to put out something that he created.
Exactly. He did it. Right.
But knowing, even as a child, a young child, to ask for help in a situation is good. Yeah. And it can be a solution then to let that fire burn.
And listen, and this is just a download from the Lord right now. But despite the fact that there could have been consequences in him telling me, because he did it, he was playing with it, he had no business messing with the brush or the fire. There could have been consequences. And there were. I talked to him about, but I could have spanked him or whatever the case is. He could have been on punishment because it was a kid doing something that he shouldn't have done. So there could have been consequences, but he was mature enough, even as a child, to know, what, despite whatever consequences that I'm going to have dealing with this, I'm going to deal with this. And I'm going to ask for some help with somebody that can help me, because I know that if I don't, it's going to get way out of hand and it's going to be something that I cannot control.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And so in that takeaway, we have to know that we can't do what with our spouses. We can't really change them all the time, right? We can't just say, okay, hopefully we pray that our spouse wakes up a different person. It doesn't work like that. With the person that you are when you got married, we said that a lot, it's not the same person you may be from a week to 20 years afterwards, right? But we can change who?
Ourselves. I mean, it's much, I guess when we pray a lot of times, and we're talking about in respect to dealing with small fires, we can be like, my husband is, this, or he, he's not romantic, or he's, mean, or he's this, or he's not ambitious enough, or he not saved enough.
Mm.
He's not any of those things. And we're praying, we're asking God, saying, hey, God, can you please change my spouse? Can you please bless my wife to clean up more? Could you please bless my wife to do, okay, all of these things. And God is saying, yeah, you know what, I can deal with that. But let's go here. Let's start with you.
Right. That's good.
Prayer changes things, but the first thing that prayer changes is the person that's doing the praying.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to pray and ask God to work on you, because you are the only component in that whole thing that you can control.
That's right. And when you have that type of lifestyle and that type of prayer life, what that does is it allows not you to focus on your spouse, but it focuses on your relationship with Christ. Yeah. And then when you get closer to Christ, that allows you to draw closer to your spouse, and that helps you to have a better relationship. Yeah. Because he wants us to handle problems like you said. And and my wife wrote these great notes tonight. We want to make sure I hit all these great aspects that you have. But she said in her notes that when you put your problems and give them to God, you give them when they're small, and that's when he can handle them, because he can handle them big or small, but it's beneficial to you. So when you address those things, address them when they're small, address them when they're little, address them when they happen, so that they don't grow and ignite into something big. Right. Because he wants us to handle the problems that we can when they're small. But he handles all problems, big or small.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's much easier to deal with issues when they are on a small scale. Like I said, it's if your house is on fire and it's just like in my instance, if it's just the bathroom, you know what I'm saying? I could probably handle putting that fire out. But what happens when that fire escalates? And I didn't attend to it. Or what if if Jazz went out and closed it? Oh, it reminds me of a story that one of my sisters told about one of their family members. It's a sister in the Lord. And she said the kids had set the closet on fire. The whole closet on fire.
Oh my goodness.
But they were little kids. They were going with these little Dixie cups. I don't know if you all remember those little mouthwash Dixie cups. They had water in these little Dixie cups, and they were all going back and forth with Dixie cups of water, trying to put the fire out in the closet until they started. The adults in the house started seeing the smoke, started smelling, and it was they had to get out the house.
Right.
But that was an example of not asking for help, and then not using the proper tools to put the fire out. What we try to do here is to give you the tools to use to give you the extinguisher to put the fire out.
Right.
Because when it escalates, then it goes to the next level, right? And it's a different kind of fire. We can go to the next level.
And that's the purpose of it. If you apply these tools, and this is episode 85, some of the things that we talk about, if you apply these tools, then it helps you to have a more contentment and more happiness in your marriage and your relationship. But and one point is that sometimes people don't talk about or lead you to believe, especially on social media, is that marriage is perfect, but fires do happen in relationships. They happen. They're going to happen, and it's basically how you fight them is what's going to be if you're successful or not in your relationship. When I had many jobs in my life, and one of them was a fireman. And when I was a fireman, there were certain techniques that you use to handle fires. But you think about it, a lot of fires started, and when it got to the call for a fireman to come, it was usually something that was out of control.
Yes.
So we want to give you some things to do when there is a fire. How to have that solution how to extinguish it before it gets too big. Absolutely. But knowing that if it does get too big, there's somebody you can call.
Absolutely, there's help. Before we kind of get into that next level of fire, because I just want to deal with like kind of 3 points of that. But what do you do in case of a fire? Like they have like the acts sometimes in buildings that says in case of fire, break glass.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Gives you instructions what to do. You know what I'm saying? Why to break glass, and why do you have an axe? Well, you got to know why you have that tool. Mr. Watts, since you were a firefighter, why is it important to have an axe in a building if there's a fire?
Right. Yeah, it's one of the tools that we use because you needed that to sometimes. Depending on the type of fire, you might have to cut through something, or sometimes you might have to break a door down to get to somebody that needs help.
Yeah.
It's a tool that you need, just like a tool to open a car. If the car's on fire, the jaws of life.
Yeah.
There's tools. And if you don't have certain tools to go into a situation where there's a fire and you have the wrong tool, you're not going to be effective. You can't save lives if you don't have the right tool for the right situation.
You can't save lives and you can't save your marriage if you do not use the right tools. So what to do when there's a fire? First thing you have to do is activate an alarm or yell fire. This is the biggest thing the biggest mistake that people make. If you have a fire, do not keep it a secret. Like those little kids trying to put that fire out in the closet with the Dixie cups of water. That made no sense to somebody who had sense, but they were children.
Right.
Don't be a child in your marriage. If you have a problem, get proper help.
Activate the alarm.
Exactly, because you're not going to look crazy by asking for help. You're going to look crazy by not. Because what's going to happen is that next level of escalation in the fire. The next thing that you have to do, call 911. So you call somebody that can actually help. You sound the alarm first. You say, hey, there is a fire. Then you call 911. After you call 911, you go to, what's the next thing, sweetheart?
Assist those that are injured and notify emergency responders. And so that's important because at first, and when you just going back, if you have a fire, you don't call the police department first. You call the fire department. Now, the police department will show up because they made their emergency response. So if you call the fire department, you better call the fire department first. And so if you are dealing with the issue in your marriage, from finances to infidelity to just no communication, whatever it is, you got to get help in that area. Don't go talking about it to somebody that can't help you, or don't go letting it go and not praying about it and seeking and letting it grow, because if you don't have the tool or call for the right help, that fire is just going to grow. Exactly.
So when you go ask for that emergency responder in your life could be a marriage coach, it could be a marriage counselor, it can be a seasoned couple. It doesn't have to be always somebody that's licensed, but ask for a first responder, somebody that's going to be able to help you when you're injured, because when there's a fire or there's something happening in your relationship and there's an injury, that injury has to be attended to. And if you're being, what's this say, honey? Because I can't read.
Take on the proper role as a protective spouse and pay attention.
Yes.
And I like that because when you're calling 911 or you're calling the EMS or you're calling a first responder, don't call somebody that's struggling with the same issues that you are.
Do not call your friend that's struggling.
Because basically what you're doing is that they're going to sit there and bring you little cups of water.
They're going to bring you
or they're going to help you, or they're going to watch that house burn with you while you're standing outside.
Exactly. Be like,
because there's nothing to do. Yeah. But if you can't call on somebody, we know somebody you can call on.
Yeah.
And a lot of times a effective prayer life can put out a lot of fires. Yeah. And then as taking on the proper role of a protective spouse, there's a lot of times, especially for men, when you are dealing with the issue, you sometimes may feel like you are inadequate, or you don't want to deal with it because it'll show weakness, and you don't want to tell your spouse. And when your spouse is the one that can protect you, that can cover you, that can check you. If you have a trouble with gambling, and regardless, male or woman, your spouse will be like, okay, I may be more involved in finances, making sure that you don't have access to a lot of stuff where it can be detrimental to the family. And, we're talking about, but if you don't have any type of communication, then there's no protection, which your spouse could have covered you, and it'll save you a headache.
Absolutely. And that's protecting you, like in so many ways, and that's protecting your family, and that's protecting your relationship. That's talking about that transparency and being open and honest, and not being dishonest. Like part of that, like so many things can be resolved by just putting dishonesty away. Putting dishonesty away and be like, hey, either it is what it is anyway. So you know what I'm saying? And then let's go here. The majority of the time your spouse know you telling the story anyway. I don't want to say lying, but they know you lying. So why lie? Just be like, you know what? Yep, I'm a bum, and I really need help. So don't don't talk about your spouse unless you're praying for your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And don't, obviously, if you're praying for them, don't talk about them either. But you don't get to complain, is my point, about anything that your spouse is doing if you're not praying for that behavior and you're not praying for yourself. You just don't get to do that. You got to definitely have a prayer life. So the last thing that you should do when you, if there's a fire, is get to a safe place. You got to get to a safe place, and that's what we're talking about. A safe place is a safe place in conversation, a safe place in transparency. It's safe places that you should be able to ask questions. If for example, like you said, if gambling, if you have a question, about whether or not your spouse has been gambling, you all should be at a non-judgmental, safe place and say, "Hey, honey, have you been gambling? I've noticed this and this and this, and I'm just checking in on you. Is this a case?" Not nagging them, not like, "Oh my God, have you been doing this? Have you been calling that man, or have you been calling that woman? I need to see your." Yeah, you should have the ability to see their phone, or whatever the case is, or whatever the place of struggle is. But you should really, really, really be able to be transparent and have a safe place to be, a safe place where there's no fire, a safe place where it's okay,
because if you don't have a safe place, and that's sort of like saying, "Well, my house is on fire, but I'm not going to get to a safe place. I'm not going to get out the house. I'm just going to stand there and watch it burn."
Watch it burn, Rihanna.
And if you do that, and if you stay in that place, then you're going to be consumed.
You're going to be consumed.
And guess what? And then a lot of times we look at some of the tales of that fire. Oh man! But most people don't understand is that when you have casualties in a fire, it is not because of the fire. It's because of the smoke. And that smoke is rising because of the fire. So a lot of times it may be an instance of you're dealing with one issue, but because you don't know how to communicate, because you don't have the proper tools, something that could be fixed or extinguished causes you to die or be put out because you got consumed just by the smoke, because you stayed in the place of where the fire was going instead of getting out and getting to a safe place. And I'm not talking about getting out of the relationship, but getting out of the place where you don't have the tools to be effective in solving the problem.
And not only that, but talking about casualties, you can cause casualties to others. I mean, it can be your children, it can be your in-laws, it can be other family members, it can be coworkers, it can be church members, it can, who gets to keep the friend? Because when the house really burns completely down, that means that's divorce, that's separation. So that means that the house is burnt down. But who is going to suffer the casualties of your burnt down house?
That's good.
Those people, again, they have that smoke inhalation. They may have not been even in the room where the fire was. They may have not been a part of that, but they have a byproduct of what destroyed that house, what destroyed that. Also, avoid total destruction, which is divorce and separation. That's calling the fire trucks. That's calling the firemen and all of that. And again, we talked about people being very private. Thank you. Talk about people being very private. I get that. And most of the couples that we mentor, that we talk to, are very private. We're kind of open. We're mostly open. Like, what I'm saying? We don't just be wearing a heart on our sleeve and just say, every time, we went through this today. But we're pretty transparent. We're going to tell you what it is. You know what I'm saying? You're like, "Oh, I got on his nerves today. I did. Sorry." Or whatever the case, or vice versa. Right. But privacy, it can kill you, and it can kill your relationship. Again, don't be afraid to call 911. Don't be afraid to call for help, because if you don't, eventually everybody's going to see your house on fire. Yeah, they're going to see it's burned down. It's going to be in the paper. It's going to be on the news. There's going to be reporters standing out in front of your house. And this is theoretically, obviously, but everybody's going to already know. So why not be known for somebody who went through a rough patch? Because everybody who's married, been married longer than 15 minutes, know you got something, to deal with in a marriage. Right. All right. So they're going to respect the fact that, man, you know what? They had a little rough patch, they had a little struggle, and they actually did something about it. That's a winner. Yeah. That's a champion. Somebody that's going to do something about it, and they're going to do something and work to fix it. That's the person that you want to be, because, if they see that, then that's great. Yeah. I'm saying? That's a wonderful example.
And, I like that example because, and why, well, why is that important? Why should I share, or why should I express? Well, if my house is on fire and my neighbors don't do nothing, or if I don't address this and that ember spark on their roof, their house gonna catch on fire.
Their house is gonna catch on fire.
And then that, you know, you can affect the community by not being quiet, by being quiet. So being able to share and being able to say, hey, yeah, I'm in the church, but yeah, I dealt with this, or, you know, I had this thing. You're helping not only yourself, but you're helping somebody else who may just be looking and observing and saying, oh man, oh, they got it together. No, but when you're transparent and when you're open and you're honest, you're actually helping yourself by communicating in your relationship, but you're also helping others who are going through the same thing, but just aren't brave enough.
Yeah, aren't brave enough
to call 911.
Call 911. You know, and you never know. Like, we get people a lot of times that come and say, oh, we admire your marriage, we admire your relationships. We'd be like, oh, for real? Okay, well, God bless. You try to make it through just like everybody else, but God bless you.
Right.
But you never know who's watching you. You know, and not only, you know, watching you from afar, but watching you from right up close, your children, you know, your siblings, your cousins, like I said, your coworkers, people in your church, people that are watching you and that are rooting for you to win, rooting for you to make it. You know, there are people that saying, you know, they saying, jump, honey, you gonna make it if you jump and get out this house. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be okay. You know, get some help, call 911. They want you to make it. We want you to make it. We're rooting for you. We're rooting for every couple, every person that wants to be married and in a relationship. You know, we're rooting for you. We're praying for you. But most of all, I will tell you this: when we were going through a really tough time in our marriage, I will never forget. There was this one minister, man, you know, that I don't really know that well, but he said, Jean, God is fighting for you, and God is fighting for your marriage. That made all the difference in the world for me. That made all the difference in the world, because you're not in this house that's on fire by yourself. You know what? Like, and then look, another download. Like the 3 Hebrew boys, they were in a fiery furnace, and the king said, you know, they looked like there was. We know we put 3 in there, but it looks like 4 are in there. You and your spouse are not in that burning house by yourself.
That's right.
The Spirit of the Lord is in there. We try not to get super churchy sometimes, but sometimes it's necessary. God is present in that house on fire, and He's not afraid of the fire. He's walking around, and He can let you walk around in that fire just like He's walking around in that fire, loosed and free in that fire. And so you can say, well, you know, Jean Watts, our house is already burnt down. It's burned down. The fire truck has left, and we are standing out here looking at the ruins.
Right.
Well, what would you say to them?
There's always a chance to rebuild.
Absolutely.
And the reason because when you think about it, you know, God is a restorer.
Yeah.
He is a person that likes taking ashes and giving you beauty for
it. That is what one of the things I love the most about God. He specializes in broken things. Broken things.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that's it right there. We can really get into it there, but it's just, you know, when you know that you have a redeemer and that you have a restorer, and that if you have the tools and the faith, it's hard work. If you're at that point, you're devastated. You've lost everything. You lost pictures. You've lost clothes. You
memories.
Lost memories, all these things. But there is a redeemer. There is a restorer. There is a person who, Jesus was a carpenter. He can rebuild your house. He can rebuild your marriage. He can rebuild all those things. This is more so rebuild. And so all those things can be rebuilt even after that. But, you know, the tool to that is that, you know, you have to have your mind. If I'm relating it to marriage, divorce is not an option. It's not a solution.
It's not a solution
to the problem. You know, there are some instances where it happens, but if you can get to the point where it's not an option because I'm having some trouble,
right?
Then you have, no matter if your house is burned down, if you have some faith, then you can believe that you can move forward.
Absolutely, because it's about being on the potter's wheel
Mhm.
And I don't have that scripture before me, but I can post it later. But it's and if Sister Moore, she's Sunday school lady, she know the word like that. Let me see who else on there. She's Sister Charbella, all these people that know the word. But the potter, he saw a vessel that was marred, and it was messed up. And sometimes that's our marriages. It's messed up, it's marred, and it was like, nothing can be done with this. It can't hold no water. It don't look right. It cannot be done with this. But the potter takes that marred clay and he melts it all back down and he remakes it. He puts it on the wheel and he puts everything on it that needs to be put on it to make it a beautiful vessel again. And I can tell you firsthand that God can take a marriage that, don't look quite right, that's full of just kind of a bunch of ugh, and make it beautiful.
Make it beautiful. Beauty for ashes.
Yeah.
Man. Hey, we appreciate you guys tuning in this evening. We are back. We thank you guys for on our hiatus, encouraging us and asking, say, well, we coming back? When you coming back? So we are back. So we want you guys to like, share, and as always, those of you on Instagram, thank you for tuning in. As always, if you want to converse with us and be in the chat, follow us on Facebook at Wattsup Entertainment. We're also on YouTube at Wattsup Video. And then we are also on Instagram throughout the week at Wattsup Entertainment. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. We will be back hopefully next week. Please like and share and tell a friend.
Absolutely. Share this with somebody who may need to hear it. And I like Sister Moore said, she said, maybe that is why Jesus was a carpenter in the Bible, because he was a fixer of things.
That's good. That's
a fixer of things.
That's good. All right. So we will see you guys next week. This is Frederick and Jean Watts.
This is Love in 60 Seconds.
Well, guys, we have to wrap it up this evening. We really hope that you've enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, this conversation has been amazing, and we want you to tune in again next time so that we can discuss more of these amazing topics and these topics of interest. Then don't forget to DM us, contact us, reach out to us, and we will definitely respond back.
This has been Love in 60 Seconds. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. Good night, everybody.
60